Good morning. This is Faith in Our Hometown, brought to you as a community service and sponsored by Mercy Hospital, Joplin. And now, here is your host, Father Jay Friedel.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to another Sunday morning of Faith in Our Hometown, our weekly conversation about things that, at least in my estimation, should matter to us as people of faith. We've had a rough few weeks, in our country. We've just had all kinds of, I think, some horrible disappointments. Some of the things that we keep thinking we should be finished with and shouldn't be happening, keep happening. And we've got to keep having the conversation as people of faith, because we've got to make sure that everybody understands what it is that we believe and what we're trying to hold dear and the values that we're trying to drag to the surface that we can all kind of agree on and figure out what we're going to do. So my guest this morning is going to be Nanda Nunnelly-Sparks, and Nanda is the president of the Minnie, Hackney Community Service Center. And Nanda is also a leader in the Black community here in Joplin and really here in the state. And I wanted to talk to her this morning because I want to get to some of those issues. So we're going to be right back after this Mercy Minute. Grab a cup of coffee and come on back, and we're going to be talking with Nanda Nunnelly-Sparks.
Cancer is the leading cause of cancer deaths in the U.S., and now we have an effective tool to screen for it. A low-dose CT uses a lower amount of radiation than a standard chest CT.
Breathe in.
Better detailed pictures than a chest x-ray of small abnormal areas of the lung. A person must be between 55 to 77 years old, asymptomatic, which means they don't have any symptoms such as coughing up blood, chronic cough, shortness of breath, unusual weight loss, or any other worrisome symptoms. They must also be a current smoker or have quit within the past 15 years, also must have a 30-pack year history or more, which equates to smoking 1 pack a day for 30 years, or 2 packs a day for 15 years. People generally avoid these scans, possibly due to fear of what could be found. Like many other cancers, if we can detect lung cancer early, it could be very treatable and life-saving.
Well, again, thanks for joining us for another Sunday morning of Faith in Our Hometown. My guest this morning, Nanda Nunnelly-Sparks, who is the president of the Minnie, Hackney Community Service Center. So, Nanda, we've had you on before, but some of our guests may not remember you, so just introduce yourself and tell us what the center does, and then we'll get into our conversation.
Well, my name is Nanda Nunnelly-Sparks, and I'm the president of the Community Service Center, also Minnie, Hackney Community Service Center. It was founded back in 1946. In segregated Joplin. It was originally called the Negro Service Council, and it provided a place for Black people at that time to have educational and civic activities, because they weren't allowed to have educational and civic activities in the places that white members of our community were able to have it. It was also a spot that when Black people would go downtown to shop or anything like that, it was one of the only places that they could actually go to use a restroom or to sit down and take a rest. So we've been very active within the community since 1946, and we continue to be so.
Yeah. Well, I've been a priest now for 34 years, almost 34 years, and I got to tell you, when I was a teenager, I really had hopes that our world was going to be better, and I guess in a lot of ways that it is. But some of the events of the last few weeks have really just kind of been a little disheartening for me. I've had to use everything in my resiliency toolkit to stay hopeful.
Yeah.
Because I just feel like, I sometimes I'm preaching to a receptive audience, but how do we keep winding up in the same space? How do we keep winding up with more people dying, at the hands of the people who are supposed to protect us? How do we do all that? And I mean, and again, I don't want to transfer all that stuff that's happened in other places to here to Joplin, because, thankfully we've not had anything that happened in our community. But how do we fix this? How do we keep talking about this in a way that's going to make a difference in our community?
Yeah. Well, I think the most important thing is to call it what it is, to recognize it for what it is. Our country was based on systemic racism.
Yes. It's kind of our original sin, if you will.
It's a hard fact, but you can't cure anything until you call it what it is and talk about it. And that's the most important thing I think that we can do as a community. I know a lot of people have been trying to do that, and it is disheartening. But I believe there are more good people in this world, and we are going to get there. It's gonna take some difficult conversations, and standing with one another, believing each other, I think is so very important. For quite a while, many people were afraid to use the words Black Lives Matters.
Right.
And now you see it everywhere. You see it everywhere. And it's, I hate for it to become a trend, but it is nice to see people actually using the word. But we need to understand what it means.
I'm gonna say this to kind of normalize this for those of us in the community that may be white. Okay. Every time that happens and somebody says, well, all lives matter, and it's true that they do, but I'm going to say this from a Christian perspective. I believe if Jesus was around, he'd be saying, but right now, most of you that are white, your lives aren't on the line the same way that some of your black brothers and sisters are. So if this will get your attention or get you to pay attention a little bit more, can't we just go with it?
Right.
I mean, really. I mean, because I agree that all lives matter. But I got to understand that I don't have the same fears when I get stopped by the police as somebody else does.
Right.
I don't.
Right. Well, it's impossible for all lives to matter until Black Lives Matter. And so that is what I think is happening in this world right now, where people are saying enough is enough. Black lives have to matter. They have to matter. So I definitely agree.
And I'm gonna just bang my little pro-life drum, okay? Because I mean that's, if I'm supposed to believe in life, this is a pro-life issue for me. I mean that people are getting killed is an issue for me.
Right.
I mean, and it has to be an issue for me.
Yes.
Because if I'm gonna care about people on death row, and I'm going to care about the elderly, and I'm going to care about the unborn, and I'm going to care about I've got to care about every one of God's children.
Yes.
I mean, and I just see that, and I am just a big proponent of that. So I mean, for me, this is a pro-life issue.
Right.
And a lot of people, want to argue, well, that's not the most important one. I don't care, but it's pretty doggone important.
It is.
Especially, if you're getting stopped by the police and you're a person of color.
Yeah. Well, I often think, kind of like what you were saying, that if Jesus was walking this earth right now, what would he be doing? I have no doubt that he would be on the front lines of these protests. And I believe that we are to be his feet, his hands, his mouth, his heart. And so we should be doing everything that we can do to stand in his place.
Yeah. I'm going to tell you, just today I received a meme from somebody, and it said, there are no white people in the Bible. I'll give you some time to think about that. and I just started busted out laughing, because I'm just like, well, yeah, he's right. Because really, in terms of the way that we think about that, and especially our culture, there really aren't. Now, do I think it includes everybody? Do I think Jesus was including? Absolutely. But you're right. He would be caring about this stuff, because I don't think he'd have a choice.
Yeah.
His kids are in trouble.
Yes.
And when his kids are in trouble, who does he respond to?
Yes.
And who does he really go after? That one sheep that, is in trouble.
Yeah.
And again, in this case, this may be a black sheep.
That's right.
Who's in trouble.
That's right.
And and he's going to go after that one.
Right.
I mean, he's going to go after it and try to protect it.
Yeah. And he used his privilege for us. And so that's another thing that I always go back to, is that if you are a privileged individual, that you don't have to worry about getting stopped by a police officer. You don't have to worry about taking a jog in your neighborhood. You don't have to worry about your child playing with a toy gun. You don't have to have that talk with them about what to do in an instance where you are stopped by the police, or you are in a situation. If you don't have to have that talk, then you should use your privilege to make sure that other people don't have to be put in that position. I think Jesus was the perfect model of being using a privilege to cover us.
Yeah. It's interesting to me. I mean, I have to admit this. And again, people get very these words get so charged so fast. But people will say, well, I don't like the idea of the sound of white privilege. It's just like, well, I gotta understand that I am privileged. I mean, I've said this, I've said it from the pulpit. I mean, I'm a white, male, Catholic priest in a predominantly Christian society here.
Right.
What don't I know about privilege?
Right.
And I am. I'm just a privileged person, and I, and I don't want to, certainly nothing I'm going to do to try to bring that, house of cards down around my head.
Right.
But at the same time, I got to acknowledge that it certainly put me in a position of influence.
Right.
People listen to my voice.
Right.
And sometimes they don't listen to somebody else who doesn't have money or doesn't have clout or is the wrong skin color or whatever. And I've got an obligation as a person of privilege to use my voice to make sure that nobody's getting left out or nobody's getting oppressed.
Yes.
I just feel like with all my heart and soul,
Yeah. Very true. Very true. Yes, we all have privileges in different ways. Whether you're privileged to have an education, or you're privileged to grow up with two parents, or you're privileged to not have to worry about if your water is going to be shut off next week. There's different instances of privilege. In this instance, now I believe it is so very important for people that do have the privilege of not having to worry about, these things, to stand up and stand with people who do. And I have no doubt that that's what our Heavenly Father would be doing right now.
I think He's standing with them. I really do. And somebody said, somebody actually said to me the other day, well, where was God when, his neck was on, when George Floyd, when that, officer's, foot was on George Floyd's neck? Where was God? And I had to say He was right there with George.
Yeah.
And I believe that.
Yeah.
But I every once in a while I do wish there were some blue lightning bolts that came with the whole thing.
Yeah.
And it's the same spot where He was when Jesus was hanging on the cross.
Yeah.
He was right there with his boy. And I think He was right there with George Floyd as well. And we just gotta, as anybody that's being oppressed or anybody that's in a dangerous situation, I believe we just got to be there in the person of Jesus and for God in those contexts.
Yeah, I recommend everyone to take a pause of 8 minutes and 46 seconds. That's how long the officer's knee was on George Floyd's neck. But to really feel that amount of time and understand that in that amount of time, none of the other officers decided to do anything else, and that police officer did not decide to do anything else. And think what we can do in that amount of time, what we can do, for each other or to change that. 8 minutes and 46 seconds is an awful long time, and it really hits home when you actually take that time.
Yeah. Well, my guest this morning is Nanda Nunnelly-Sparks, and we're talking about the issue of racism and the fact that we've got a long way to go yet before this sin still doesn't keep dragging us down, because it does drag us down. It drags us down as a community, it drags us down as people of faith, it drags us down all the time. So we're going to be right back after a quick break to continue our conversation. So don't go away and stick with us, please.
You're watching Faith in Our Hometown on KSN TV, brought to you as a community service and sponsored by Mercy Hospital, Joplin.
So again, my guest this morning, Nanda Nunnelly-Sparks, who's the president of the Community Service Center, also known as the Minnie Hackney Community Services Center. Who was Minnie, by the way, real quick for everybody?
Minnie Hackney was the executive director of the Negro Service Council. She started in 1947 and she retired right around 1980. When she retired in 1980, she was working 40 hours a week, making $150 a month.
Wow.
Which is just amazing. But she said she did it because she loved it.
I was going to say that's a mission of love.
Yeah, that was.
Wow. So again, sometimes I get involved in all these conversations, and I sometimes make people uncomfortable. Sometimes I make people angry, and I've just come to realize it goes with the job. Okay.
Yep.
But In terms of that, we were talking a little bit about that statistic that you mentioned. I sometimes will tell a story about the one night that I could have been tased right in my own neighborhood on my own property because I was stupid enough. I wasn't thinking that the cop was actually pulling me over. I was tired. It was 3 o'clock in the morning. I was coming home from the hospital, and I parked my car and I got out of the car to talk to the officer because I thought he just wanted to talk to me. Pretty stupid on my part. Okay. Mm-hmm. That's not the way one should behave when the police is pulling them over. Okay. But now I look back and say, well, first of all, I mean, I wasn't worried because again, I've got in my head, I've got all this privilege. Mm-hmm. I mean, but folks who of color don't have that same privilege. They don't have that same mentality. Right. They need to be a little more fearful. Why do they need to be fearful in terms of the statistics? Now, this was interesting to me.
So in the state of Missouri, several years ago, the Attorney General decided to start keeping track of traffic stops, the racial disparity numbers. And the first year that it came out, I believe it was black people were 75 times more likely to be stopped by police officers than non-black people. You would think that once they started compiling these numbers and looking at them, that the numbers would go down, but that's not what we've seen. They've gone up. So the first year it was 75 times more likely. The next year it was 85 times more likely. Last year it was 91 times more likely. And this year, just released a couple weeks ago, 95 times more likely as a black motorist that you're going to be pulled over than a white motorist.
All right, now let me just ask this question, and I'm going to do it facetiously. Is that because, black folks are just worse drivers, or what's the deal here?
It is, there's a lot of spin that gets put on it sometimes. A lot of times you'll hear, well, we don't even know who we're pulling over, other things. But we know as human beings that we have bias. Right. We have bias. And when we look at people, certain people, our minds, because of what we feel, what we've grown up with, what we've been educated with, we have a bias. And there's no way that those numbers can be just written away as anything other than what it is. And once again,
it's a bias.
Yeah. And when you're talking about that, you have to call it what it is. So,
and again, I do that, and I ask the question, and I ask it intentionally, because I think that there's so many people out there who just don't buy the fact that there is any bias.
Yeah.
And I just have to say that it frustrates me so because, while I don't think everybody's a bad person,
right.
But we are never going to get to this. Right. We're never going to get to some of what's underneath all this until we start acknowledging that the game is rigged a little still.
Yes.
I mean, and I know it was rigged a long time ago, but until we still acknowledge that it's still a little rigged, we're not going to get anywhere.
That's right. So, like myself, I have to, when I get in my car, I have to consciously think, where's my driver's license? Where is my insurance card? Where is the, my licensing information for my car? I want to put it in some place that I don't have to reach for it. I have to make extra thought process to make sure that that's all there. Did I get my license out for some other reason, or whatever? So when you put that much time and energy into something, and then just having that anxiety of knowing every time you get out that you are 95 times more likely to get stopped, you're not even doing anything wrong, but that gives you the anxiety. And so sometimes, I can see if you've got an anxiety and you've been stopped by a police officer may think because you're anxious, just because you're anxious and wondering, what did I do? Whatever, they may think that you are hiding something or nervous about something, if that's their bias, if that's the first thing they go to. So we've got, it's a circle. It's a circle. One thing can lead to the next, to the next, to the next. And like you said earlier, we haven't had an incident of that here in Joplin, but that doesn't mean that we can't. And it's good for us to have these conversations, to talk about it. So.
Yeah. And I do think we need to continue having the conversations, because if we don't, we're never going to continue to make any headway. So to that end, Nanda, what are you guys planning? What are you guys trying to do to keep that conversation rolling forward for all of us?
Yeah. Well, what we have been doing because of COVID-19, another example of
I just really want to, I hammered this home the other day, and again, people looked at me like I was crazy. But again, who is bearing the brunt of the COVID-19 thing? It is our brothers and sisters of color.
Yes.
And they're bearing the brunt of that because, again, especially here in our area, now not black people, but brown people, who's working in our poultry plants? Other than, our brown brothers and sisters.
Right.
And because they're working in those poultry plants, they've been working at, in less than desirable conditions. Our most recent outbreak has been in one of those facilities again. And then, now, to add insult to the insult to the to the whole thing, now they're also then deemed essential, which means that then they're supposed to be working in those unsafe conditions because we want cheap poultry.
Right.
I don't even hardly know what to say to that.
It's difficult. It is hard. Yeah. Well, and it's just like what's going on right now in the country. People want to get out and they want to protest, but we also know, as part of Black Lives Matter, that we need to protect our community. And so most of our membership at Minnie Hackney is older people. We are not recommending anyone get out and protest at this point in time. We believe that there's other ways you can protest. You can protest by helping the people who are out there. Especially if you are black with an underlying health condition, you have no business coming out and protesting in our area with the rising numbers. In the state of Missouri, black people are 4 times more likely to die of COVID than a white person. And that is not healthy for the black community either. So, so Minnie Hackney has been we've been providing services for, just kind of helping on the backside of things. We had some t-shirts printed up about the death of Ahmaud Arbery. Having no idea that within a couple of days we would get Breonna Taylor, and then a couple of days later we would have George Floyd. So we've been trying to get the word out about justice, just justice. We need justice, and that's basically what Minnie Hackney is doing at this point in time.
Well, I want to say about the protests. I've driven by some of the protests. I've got to say I was happy to see folks were masked, and I don't want to give them the whole mask thing, but I'm glad to see that people were masked. I was glad to see everybody was being very respectful. They were doing chants on the side of the road and doing their thing, and I'd honk my horn, and people, cheer and do their things because I wanted to be supportive. Again, I don't know whether it's all the right strategies or anything else, but again, we've not experienced any violence. We've not experienced any vandalism. We've not experienced any of those things here in our community. And all I'm going to say to my brothers and sisters in Joplin is, if you're going to protest, that's the way to do it. Do it safely, please. But to our brothers and sisters who are out there who are protesting because they're frustrated and upset, I understand, and I respect your right to do it. And I'm just going to say, keep doing it the way you are doing it, because it shows a little bit of class, and and again, that's the way we should do things here in our hometown.
The group that I think has arranged most of those, the name of the group is Justice for Joplin, I believe, and so they've been really active in putting together those protests. I want to give them some kudos.
Well, like I say, I have seen a few of them. I haven't seen all of them, but again, very mixed crowds, and I was very proud and happy to see that too. I will also give a little bit, out of these whole things. I want to make sure I slip this in here a bit, but I was talking to, I advise a fraternity group that's actually trying to get started here at Southern, hasn't been part of here, but also advise the fraternity, the Greek system at Southern as well, in different ways, and support them. And I was happy to see over at Southeast Missouri State, one of the guys had a mark on there. Again, and when my hope starts to get down, or I think we're failing, or something's gonna happen, I stop and I look at this, and the guy had a shout out to some of his brothers. He said, not because we decided we were gonna do this as a group, but just because some of our brothers really thought that it was the thing to do. I was proud to see when I drove by today you were in that protest. And then in the next sentence he said, and while I'm on the subject of inclusivity, he said to my brothers in the fraternity that are gay, I just want you to know that there's a place for you too, and we love you, and we're proud of all of you, because it's, you know, it's quote Pride Month, okay?
Right.
And he said, and I thought, okay, 25 years ago when I first started working with the Greek system, I don't think that would have happened.
No.
And now
Yeah.
I'm watching it and I'm seeing it, and so I'm like, whoa, there's improvements there.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we got about a minute. What else do you want to say?
Yeah.
What other plug do you want to give us?
Well, I will just say that I am so very proud of seeing all the young people step up and take this on. And as you say, I know, you know, I thought that my generation would be the one to cure this evil. I mean, it's evil. But I have high hopes in our young folks, and so a lot of them that have been stepping up and going out there and protesting every day, you know, it makes my heart smile. It makes my heart smile to know that that's that important, you know.
It certainly gives us, I think, a little bit of a reason for our hope
Yeah.
you know, just
definitely.
a reason for our hope in terms of some of that.
Yeah.
You know, in terms of how we approach that, we're just going to have to keep having these conversations.
That's right.
So thank you for coming today.
Anytime.
And to being part of the conversation, because otherwise we're never going to make any more headway.
Yeah.
So we'll be right back after this Mercy Minute.
The whole purpose of screening is to catch people who have a significant smoking history early enough where we can do something about it and potentially improve the duration of life. The minimum recommendation for screening is 30-pack years. So usually people who've smoked more than 30-pack years are the ones that we're screening. If we start screening yearly with low-dose CT scans, we can reduce the risk of death from lung cancer by 20 to 25%. Stage 1, 2, and 3 cancers potentially can be cured. When it becomes stage 4, the possibility of cure falls significantly.
Well, thanks again for being with us for another Sunday morning. You know, we've got to continue to have hope. We've got to continue to be able to speak to one another. We've got to be able to have conversations that'll make a difference in our lives. Sometimes it gets frustrating because, you know, you think you've been preaching about something for years and years and years, and the things that that horrify you, and you think, well, how often can that keep happening? And unfortunately they do, which is why we know we're not there yet. We've not yet cured the sin of racism. We've not yet gotten rid of this mark on our institutional and our history as a country, because we've not transcended it yet. We've not gotten past it. Doesn't give me reason not to be thankful. I'm grateful for so many things here in our hometown, you know, but the things are not what they are in other places. But I know that we still have to continue to talk to one another in order to make the difference. So let's continue to pray for each other. Let's continue to not be defensive. Let's sit with the discomfort so that we can maybe hear what our brothers and sisters are trying to say to each other, and come back and join us again next week for another conversation of faith in our hometown.
Thanks for watching. Faith in Our Hometown can be seen Sunday mornings at 6:30 and 9 a.m. on KSN. Brought to you as a community service and sponsored by Mercy Hospital, Joplin.